The world of music is a fantastic place. Musicians can thrive in the face of any type of upbringing, personal character, periodic circumstances, or a lack of connections, so long as they bring something captivating to the table. If I were to say that a German experimental rock band with an English-speaking Japanese lead singer pulled off one of the best 3-album runs ever, would you believe me? The smart assumption from hearing something so irregular is to assume that it's too specific not to be true, which is correct. Their popularity, even in their heyday, may not reflect this, but the krautrock group Can put together some of the most well-respected and groundbreaking pieces of music ever, thanks to unbelievable instrumental performances and a peak of consistency that few other artists can compete with. This could be assumed based on their wildly diverse lineup of musicians and relatively underground choice of genre of krautrock and experimental rock, though it's worth mentioning how Can's product should be seen as somewhat inaccessible for those wishing to venture into their discography. Damo Suzuki's vocals frequently come across as more instrumental than traditional singing and are often completely unintelligible without the aid of Google as a guide. Their best songs are drawn out, nearing the 10-minute mark in some cases, though there are certainly more than a couple examples where the runtime draws close to or exceeds 20 minutes. If this is a significant drawback that instinctively demands you pull away from this topic, be relieved that I will be including some short snippets that demonstrate a piece of why the group is at all noteworthy. Not to mention that their background brings another level of engagement to listeners after knowing the circumstances that combine for their type of sound. Their debut album, Monster Movie, came out in 1969 and established the improvisational style that would bring them fame. All 4 initial members were born and raised in Germany, yet they sought out the American Malcolm Mooney to be their lead vocalist. Of course, this isn't the English-speaking Japanese singer that I promised earlier, who would join the group just after this record when a mental breakdown would force Mooney to step away from Can. During a live performance, Mooney began shouting the words "upstairs, downstairs" for 3 hours, unable to stop even after his colleagues ceased play. This is an insane story in any context, though it makes far more sense to happen to a band like Can compared to other musical acts, as their creative style almost invites musicians to adopt a less structured mindset. For Monster Movie specifically, though this is likely similar to recordings of other albums as well, workdays would take about 13 hours filled with improvised instrumentals or vocals that would later be edited down to tracks that fit on an album. Can has described this process as a form of spiritual communication with one another, melting their subconscious together. Recording in the 1970s for the bulk of their catalog, engineering a finished product was a more antiquated process than you might expect. Bassist and producer Holger Sukai would take their raw tape and edit it down using a razor blade and a tape, a process whose level of complexity is anyone's guess. To offer some idea, a listen to the track You Do Right would take someone just over 20 minutes, and it's been mentioned that the original recording was at least 6 hours long, only ending because of equipment malfunction. Damo Suzuki filled in perfectly as the group's new vocalist, bringing an unhinged style that blends into the rest of Can's rhythmic chaos. His musical talents were evident at a young age, as he was able to play several instruments that his family had gifted him during his developmental years in Kobe, Japan. Becoming dissatisfied with parts of Japanese culture, Suzuki traveled across Europe and made money in various ways, most notably busking, or musical street performances for donations. While playing outside a club in Germany, 2 members of Can approached Suzuki and asked him to perform with them that very night inside the same club where he was busking. As profitable as this decision would become for the group, don't be fooled into thinking that it came from sound reasoning. Suzuki would later claim that none of the members knew how he sang, instead suggesting they simply wanted someone who looked like an alien, since an Asian in 70s Germany was a rare sight. Luckily, Can felt instant chemistry with a necessary potential new lead, with Sukai claiming that Suzuki, quote, developed into a samurai fighter during the performance. Despite this praise, it should be noted that the audience did not enjoy Suzuki's introduction and became noticeably angry at his erratic style, leaving the venue until only around 30 people were left in the 1,500-seat hall. Nonetheless, Suzuki began recording tracks with the band that would be released in 1970 on their compilation album Soundtracks. The following year started Can's a legendary run of music where all of their somewhat insane aspects were able to blend into an indescribably new sound that other musicians couldn't replicate. The most well-known and critically acclaimed project to this day is Tago Mago, released just 15 months into the Suzuki era. There are a lot of highs on this album, rounded out by a consistent track list, but my choice of the two best songs that sum up why I and others love this record are Paper House and Hallelujah. Here's Paper House, cut down and alternating between multiple sections of the song.
Make everything what you want with your head. You'll be underwear everywhere with your mind.
This is probably my favorite Can track of their whole catalog. There are two sounds that the song alternates between, something you'll notice in a lot of my other selections as well. The first is slow and confident with spaced out instrumentals before picking up speed for the second section. It's hard to convey how creative and impressive the composition of these types of tracks is within a cut down version, so if you like what you hear, I really suggest listening to these songs in full. Here's Hallelujah. Like I said earlier, a near 20-minute runtime is going to be intimidating for anyone, but Hallelujah is going to be engaging for 18 and a half minutes straight to anyone who loves instrumental rock. Michael Caroli is especially incredible on guitar, and there aren't many better examples of Damo Suzuki shouting nonsense in a way that somehow works and fits the backing music. Their 1972 release, Egi Bamyasi, might be the most grounded album of this 3 LP run. Sing Swan Song will be recognizable to Kanye West fans who've heard the graduation song Drunk and Hot Girls, which sampled Can. Here it is.
Just a drunken hot she's sucking up again, but happy as the day is wrong.
This track has a similarly slow vibe to Paper House with a bigger emphasis on its detailed production. There's a lot of guitar layering to accompany a repetitive bass line and patient drumming. Vitamin C is the band's most popular song on Spotify with just under 52 million streams. I wouldn't call Vitamin C Can's most impressive song, though it could be their most catchy, probably why it's their most famous. Since this is a phenomenal performance by the drummer Jacques Liebezit, I'm going to use it to highlight his artistry. Every musician in the group is incredible and rightfully praised by their fan base, but Liebezit may receive the most recognition within the music world. On top of his evident skill, he was an especially crucial part of the band because of how essential consistent drumming is within their unique creative process. With every member's part being almost entirely improvisation, the drums could be seen as a starting point for everyone else to build off of, like a musical core that other instruments gravitate around. It's hard to imagine Can being this good if a lesser musician replaced Liebezit. Continuing their pattern of yearly releases, Future Days was their annual edition in 1973. This album was a clear step in a different direction, opting for what can be called an early version of ambient music that also seems more psychedelic. Its runtime is split between just 4 songs, starting with the title track, Future Days, and ending with Bel Air, which makes up just under half of the 41-minute experience this record delivers. Here's Future Days. Couldn't see how anyone would listen to this one without liking it. It's atmospheric and ridiculously chill, great vocals, and very creative instrumentation, making it one of my favorites. And here's Bel Air. Everything I said about the previous song is also true about Bel Air, making it seem like a more drawn-out attempt at an already great idea. At precisely 20 minutes in length, I could see this being a more divisive option for listeners, depending on one's enjoyment of long instrumentals and the type of music that has you zoning out into a different world. Suzuki's relationship with the band became rocky when he married a Jehovah's Witness missionary sometime near Egi Bamyasi's release. He began adapting the religion into his own life and became more distant from the other musicians' ideologies. After dropping Future Days, he decided to take a break from music entirely, leaving Can without a vocalist. Failing to find a consistent replacement outside of the band, other members would fill in for singing roles when needed, though they decided to feature fewer vocals in general and continued experimenting with an ambient sound. An apparent drop-off in quality followed his departure, which might have been expected. However, part of me is surprised that an act that relied so heavily on instrumentals couldn't repeat even that aspect of their music without a lead singer. The fact that this random street performer was the pivotal part of some of the best music ever made, to the point that his leave led to Can's impressive run being extinguished, is kind of poetic as well.